Welcome back. Today we're going to be checking out the DAWNKNIGHT K7Cs in the 150 watt 4300 Kelvin variant. I'm going to point out straight off the bat that there is also a 110 watt version which is strongly recommended for reflector based headlights. These are going into projectors, so that is not of concern. The lower wattage ones use a smaller LED, so they're meant to provide better focus in reflector headlights. So here are the products. They're nicely packaged. Little instruction manual. It just goes over how to remove the collet and a few other basic things. How, like, you know, don't touch the LEDs with the oily hands and vice versa. The LED itself, it's very compact. That is one reason why we went with the K7Cs over something like the K9C. The LED appears to be a 6-segment LED, so it's 6 LEDs put into the one package. Small resistor is for measuring the temperature, so then the driver can adjust it accordingly for better life. It does have a fan at the rear. The fan blows the air that way over the heatsink, so consider that when you are installing these. Now, as for the overall size, I just want to point out actually, there is also 3 heat pipes which pull the heat down to the heatsink along with a copper MCPB. Very nice. These are some of the only globes on the market, from what I can tell, who use heat pipes to transfer the heat, which is obviously a lot better. Now, as for the overall dimensions, we're going to do just the rearward portion of the bulb. We are looking at about 30 mil from the collet to the end of the heatsink. Heatsink diameter is 36 millimeters. As for the driver, the total length is about 50 mil. My calipers are going to start flashing because they're low on battery. They've been like that for months. And then width is 27.5, height, we're looking at about 15 mils. So we're going to go ahead with the testing. I've already done all the testing, but obviously you guys don't know that. But I'll say straight off the bat, I'm very satisfied with them. If you are considering getting these, get a pair. So here we have our initial turn on test. This will be very interesting to see what they turn on at. Straight to 76 watts, and we're going to probably watch it slowly drop as the rear heatsink heats up. Lots of light output. So theoretically, this should be over 5,000 lumens on initial turn on. Unfortunately, I do not have an integrating sphere or any way to measure lumens, but again, that is something that I will be hopefully obtaining in the future for more detailed, more accurate reviews and testing for you guys. Now we're going to jump over to a long-term 2-hour enclosed test, and then after that we're going to be looking at a open air test. So here we are with the results after 2 hours worth of a enclosed test. Now, it is not perfect, however, it is going to be good enough, especially considering there is a lot of variables within different headlights, wind, engine bay temperature, and vice versa. So what we have here after 2 hours is we have 37.9 watts at 13.6 volts. We have about 90 degrees Celsius. Now, with any kind of thermocouple measurement, especially on something with a fan, I always take my results with a slight grain of salt. I would say there could be a plus 5 to 10 degrees Celsius variable. Unfortunately, my thermal camera is out of action at the moment. And then the temperature ambient within the enclosure, we are looking at, I think that is 68 degrees Celsius, which I think is very respectable. 38 watts is still going to be, even at the lower end of lumens per watt, let's say like 75, 80, you're going to still be looking at about over 3,000 lumens. So for an end result for the K7C, the 150 watt variant, that is very respectable. In the future, I will be updating this setup hopefully to get a bit more accuracy, maybe a bit more detailed, a few more thermocouples, and of course, a thermal camera in the future, and hopefully a headlight with a rear cover to simulate an actual headlight. Unfortunately, all I have is the Sunlu filament dryer that I use for my 3D printer. The Sunlu filament dryer is not plugged in, so for anyone wondering, there is no heat coming from that. It is purely from the bulb and the driver within the filament dryer itself. As for the open air test, which is in an ambient temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, we're looking at 71 degrees Celsius on the rear heatsink, along with 68 watts. Again, very respectable result, and this will vary due to engine bay temperature, airflow, and vice versa, as with any of these tests. So, what are my thoughts on the DAWNKNIGHT K7C? Again, it is a well-engineered product by DAWNKNIGHT. Typically, like always, these globes do run extremely hot. Considering how hot it does run at the heatsink, obviously the LEDs are running much hotter. But in all reality, when you buy these high-powered LEDs, I always tell people, even if it fails in a year or 3 years, but considering how much they are, the light output, in my opinion, they are a great investment, especially over halogen, which does fail after a few years to begin with. I would recommend that if you have the room, you go something like the K9C, because this does have the smaller heatsink. But overall, another great product from DAWNKNIGHT. Now, if I do get some nighttime video, these are going to a friend's car. If I do get some nighttime video, I'll make sure to chuck it up after this. But overall, this is the outro. I appreciate you guys watching. This is the first time that I've changed up my format. I've got a nicer camera, mic'd up like always, but I'm doing jump cuts and vice versa. So if it feels like it doesn't flow very well, that will be why. I have recorded a fair bit of this separately. It hasn't all been in just one big take, which is in my previous video is what I did, and it felt sloppy. It felt like I missed out on a few things. And hopefully I get more calibration equipment, integrating sphere, thermal probes, thermal camera, that kind of thing in the future. I appreciate you guys checking this out, and I hope you take care and keep on keeping on.